Hello my friends, it's Molly here for another video, and as you can see from the title, it's time for another blind girl story time about my face feeling experience. Actually, unfortunately, just one of the experiences. I have a few more experiences, so if you want a follow-up story time with my other face feeling experiences, we can do that, but this is just like the first one that I ever had. The first time I ever encountered feeling somebody's face, so I figured I would start with this one, and if you guys enjoy this, I can share another one. For some reason, there's this big stereotype that all of us blind peeps like to feel people's faces. I'm assuming that started with Helen Keller, which for me, it makes a little more sense because she was blind and deaf, so it's not like somebody could really easily give her verbal descriptions of what people looked like. But I think from there it went into like the media, so movies and television shows started always portraying blind people with dark sunglasses, another stereotype that is often not true, and that we all feel faces. Again, another stereotype that generally isn't true. There might be some blind person out there somewhere that feels faces. If you're watching this and you're a blind person who feels faces, please feel free to let me know, but I personally have a lot of friends in the blind community, none of which I know who feel faces. So at large, I'm gonna say this is a stereotype that's not true, which is why it's very awkward how often people ask me if I would like to feel their faces and all that kind of stuff, because I'm like, no, that's so weird, that's so awkward, no, like how uncomfortable of a situation is that? So this situation I found myself in was extremely uncomfortable. Alright, so let me set the scene. It was at my first ever boyfriend's house. I was 15 years old, so I was very new to being blind since I lost most of my vision at 14. So it was about a year after. And I had my first boyfriend. At that point we were probably, I want to say, together for like 7 months. We broke up around 8 or 9 months, so at that point we were together for 7 months. The first time I met his grandmother, I can't remember how long we had been together at that point for, but I met his grandmother, and when I asked her what color the flowers on her table were, she started to cry. So like the idea that I'm blind was very emotional for her, and she loved me. Like she bought me this beautiful bracelet, like very high quality, expensive bracelet. I literally still have it, and this was, I mean I'm 22 now, so this was 7 years ago. And it still looks beautiful. So she, I don't know, she like was really emotional about the idea that I couldn't see. And so we ended up having a big family dinner at his parents' house. So it was his parents, my parents, the two of us, and his grandparents at this dinner. So we finished eating dinner, and his mom and him got up to start cleaning things up, and the rest of us were still sitting around the table. And this was the night his grandma gave me the bracelet, actually. So they had given me the bracelet with a card at the beginning of the night. I think it was to celebrate the fact that I had won Miss Teen Canada. I'm pretty sure that's why she gave me the bracelet and the card. And so she gave that to me earlier in the night. Now we're all sitting around the table, and she asked me to go somewhere with her. And I wasn't sure where she was bringing me, but I was like, okay. So I got up and I followed her. And she brought me into the laundry room, which was very close to their dining room. It was like adjacent, so we just had to cross the hallway. And we went in there, and she closed the door behind us. She sat down, and I think she sat on like possibly an upside down laundry basket. She sat down in front of me, and I'm really short, so she was then about like similar height to like face to face. And she grabs my hands in hers, and she said, "I would like you to feel my face." And I was like, what do I do? Like it was my boyfriend's family, you know, I wanted to impress them. I wanted them to like me, to still like me. I didn't want to offend her. She had given me this beautiful gift that night. I was young and uncomfortable and awkward, and I'm still the kind of person who struggles with that. I'm definitely always like, no, that's a stereotype, we don't do that, but in general, like I don't like confrontation, I don't like to say no to people, it's something I do struggle with, so especially when I was still young and I just didn't know what to do, so I said okay. and she grabs my hand, or she's holding my hands at this point, and she puts them on her chin, or her jawline, and she goes, "This is my jaw. This is my chin." And this is the most cringy part. In between each section of her face, she would pause as if, I don't know, for me to keep feeling or for me to comment. So she's going up, she goes, "These are my cheeks. These are my cheekbones. This is my nose." And I'm just, like, every time she would pause, I'd just be like, "You feel pretty." Or I'd be like, "Smooth, it's very smooth." Like, I would just say the most uncomfortable things, like, just to make a comment because she was leaving that empty space for me to do so. And then we're at her temples. And she goes, "These are my temples." And at that moment, my boyfriend busts in the door, looks at what we're doing, and goes, "Grandma, she doesn't do that." And I was like, oh no, like, because at that point I had done it. I had done like most of her face. I was almost done. I was like 3/4 of the way there. So now for him to say she doesn't do that, it's like, well, I do now. It's a new thing I'm trying out. I don't know. It was just like, oh, so uncomfortable. And he was like a little bit mad at her, and I just like left the room awkwardly. And I was like, "Okay, sorry, thanks, bye." And the two of us went downstairs to watch TV and just like get away from this whole awkward scenario. And it was actually really funny because we were watching Family Guy, and I don't know if anybody knows this episode. They've done quite a few like blind jokes or episodes with blind people in them. But this episode specifically, there was a blind girl who was on a date with a guy, and I believe it was their first date, and he asked her to feel his face, or she asked him if she could feel his face, and she started feeling it. She was like, oh gosh, no, oh no, is that, oh god, I have to go. And she was like really, like, I guess thought he was so ugly after feeling his face, and the date had been going so well. So it was funny, but I was like, this is where people like your grandma get this idea that we feel faces. It's shows like this that make people, I doubt his grandmother was watching Family Guy and got the idea from there, but from like media, this is where it happens. So it's just like very ironic that we ended up going downstairs and watching Family Guy, who was portraying a blind person as feeling faces. I actually don't think she was wearing dark sunglasses, so at least that's a pro. But yeah, then his grandparents came downstairs to say goodbye, and it was just awkward. We broke up, like I said, 1 or 2 months after that, so I actually never saw them again, but definitely an uncomfortable situation. So that is the first time I had ever been put in that situation after going blind. And yeah, it was certainly uncomfortable, but I do have more stories like this one. So if you'd like to hear more of my face feeling experiences, please comment down below or give this a thumbs up to let me know. If you're blind or visually impaired, do you like feeling faces? Does it help you? I honestly don't think it helps me gain any context. It would not help me to further know what somebody looks like that I couldn't figure out in other ways. So for me, it's just not something that I would ever do. And like I said, most people I know wouldn't either. Or if you're blind or visually impaired, do people ask you frequently, like they do to me, if you want to feel their face? Have you ever been forced to feel a face? Please tell me your face feeling stories. And as always, if you haven't already joined the family, please hit that subscribe button. I would love you to join this little community we got going on here. If you're interested, I would love to have you support me on Patreon. Link is always down below in the description box, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!